Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today I have Mark Gorman on the line, and he's CEO of Matrix Solutions. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me.
All right, Mark. So excited to have you on the show today. This is one of my favorite topic and angles. So transformation, what's going on in media, and really how Matrix Solutions is assisting media companies. I mean, lots of changes happening. So I feel like having you on the show gives myself and our audience a bit of an insider view of what's going on behind the scenes in media. I'm so excited to get into that. But before we do, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So, Mark, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Mark, what mission matters to you?
So, our official mission at Matrix is we empower media companies with intelligence, technology, and expertise. And when we think about that, why does that really matter? Because that's your show. When you think of media and what it contributes, it really does two things, right? It entertains us and it informs us. Those are the primary two components that media delivers to us as an audience. And they may do it well, they may not do it well, but those are the two components. And so for us, when we think about it, we think about in terms, particularly the traditional media. You think of television, radio, the move to OTT, things like this from the traditional media world. How do we help them really monetize their advertising inventory in a way that allows them to produce more, better content? They entertain us better, they inform us better. So in today's world, when you think of it in 2021, globally, I think they spent 670 billion or so on advertising. It's a lot of money.
It's a big number.
My goal is only to capture like 10% of that. And we here in the United States, of course, we're a large chunk of that. But when you think about what's happened in the United States, 3 companies dominate advertising revenue today: Google, Facebook, and Amazon. They account for over 50% of ad revenue in this country. Man. And the top 5 largest traditional media companies barely touch what Amazon makes. So why does this matter? Well, first of all, we can talk about entertainment, sure. The quality of entertainment that you might find on those different streams certainly could be different. And we get into that later if you want to know how. But really, for me, even more important is to inform. So if you think about it, media traditionally has really been a watchdog for us as citizens of this country. And you look at what's happened in newspapers. Study after study will show you that as different localities lose their newspapers, local government corruption goes up. It's a fact. And so we as citizens should be concerned that as our money is all moving towards Google, Amazon, and Facebook, we may not get the kind of protection that we have historically from media. So for me, it's really important to help our clients, help our prospects figure out how can we monetize your inventory in a way that's easy to understand, easy to execute, easy to measure. That'll get you the business.
Yeah, it's great insight, and it is an issue. So when we think about and I'm sure many of the people watching this remember maybe when they had like a local newspaper or something else, or stories about that were in their communities that really no longer exist, whether it's on newspaper form or if it's in the online form. I mean, I was just reading earlier today, Gannett's going to maybe be downsizing part of its reach in eastern Massachusetts, creating what could end up to be a news desert, right? Like an entire part of Massachusetts that would not be covered, and those people there would be at a disservice because they would no longer know what's going on in terms of the media and news and things like that. So a lot of the things that we maybe take for granted on the news side and as consumers just not always understanding that it does take revenue, it does take an ad set at the behind the scenes to make, like, nothing's free, right? Like, the journalists have to get paid, the media outlet has to get paid, you have to keep the lights on, right? So this, whether we think it does or not, it affects us all, right?
And that's right. So it's interesting when you say that. So you do, of course, in this nation, we still have, and for us as a company, we are going beyond the borders of the United States. But when you think of the United States today, losing the newspaper hasn't been good, but we still do have local broadcast. You do have local radio, and they do a great job in providing that kind of local news and information and investigation. However, even their budgets are getting squeezed. And it's interesting. I don't know, it was a couple years ago when Australia came up with a new law that Google actually had to pay newspapers for the news that they were pushing to consumers, which I think is actually fair. If Google's making money off that content, they should have to pay for it.
Oh, that's interesting. I was not aware of that. So Mark, I want to take a pause here for a moment. I just want to go, let's say, back in time a bit, because obviously you've been in this industry for a bit and you know what you're doing. But like, where did all this start? Like, where did this fascination with media and kind of going down this path? Where did it begin for Mark?
Well, I would say that this, like much of my career, was more accidental than it was by design. So when I was a kid, as kids, we all dream of, being policemen, firemen, etc. That was not my dream. My dream, I remember this very distinctively in elementary school, was I was going to become an international banker. I didn't know quite what that meant, but that was my goal. I came home every night, so we'll give up my age a little bit, when we had 7 stations, TV stations. I'd watch PBS every night at 6:30 to 7, watching the nightly business report. I mean, I'm like in 4th grade. I'm thinking, God,
international banker.
What a geek. It's ridiculous. So shockingly, I did end up in finance after doing some things. And I spent from grad school on about 20 years in private equity and hedge funds. And in 2013, I was introduced to some people who were looking to make some investments, and I joined them. And we had bought Matrix. And a couple of years after that, I took over as CEO. Matrix is really a legacy company. It's been around, shockingly, for a tech company since 1992.
Wow.
And I would say, like a lot of technology in this business, it's old. People built it, but they didn't really reinvest. So I came in really with an eye to reinvest in the underlying software, which we did. We're now built on Azure. Everything underneath is new. We're an open platform. We've adopted the TIP initiative for API, data movement. And then, with a real focus on how do we expand beyond our core. So we as a company, our core was, and still is today, local broadcasts. We're probably 85% of that market. But so for me, over time, over the last few years, I've learned this industry. I think there's a lot that we can do, technology and media companies together, to become really competitive and not just compete with each other in the same segment, but really recapture a lot of that pie. It's amazing because the kind of audience engagement that you get from a radio or TV advertisement, or even if you look at OTT, when people are watching a streaming show that has advertisement in it, that is the highest engagement you can get. So to me, these companies should be growing at much, much faster rates.
And so what do you think some of the challenges there for some of the media companies there? Is it lack of knowledge, investment, capitalization? I mean, and obviously it's going to be different, right, for every company, obviously, but what are some of the challenges that you find hold people
You're
back?
going to get me in trouble. That's what this question. You told me no loaded question. So no. Listen, I'm pretty honest about it. What actually amazes me, I think it's a couple of things, right? So these media companies still make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think for big companies, most big companies, not all. So for example, I was talking to Karen Yager from Gray, who runs their technology, and she and I were talking about this. I think she's not of this ilk, but many people are, that changing technology or doing something different is risky.
Mm.
No, the risk is doing the same thing. And Karen's like, I always want to try new things so that I can move our company forward.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I think one of the hurdles is you have a lot of legacy. You have the agency side that needs to buy in, and they're reluctant. And then, there's sort of like everybody's feeding off this thing
Mm-hmm.
until it's dead, rather than saying, hey, how do we adopt so that we can actually grow and prosper? So I think that is one of the biggest challenges. I do see as another challenge, frankly, not always, but it's, I would say, not as common, though I have an example where this is completely incorrect and for us. But a lot of times I think I've been told by media companies, why don't you guys just build the software? And then we'll test it and see if it works for us or not. And I always say, listen, we need you as a partner, because then the chance of us building what's really going to be applicable and help the future is going to be higher. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
people say, well, we don't know. And I always say the same thing. It's your choice. But if I do it and I do it all on my own, I'm from finance. The person who
Yep.
takes the risk makes all the money.
Mm-hmm.
You're from finance. The
Oh,
risk
for
taker
sure.
makes the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the idea, and I get it. So the partnership model and working with somebody, it also makes it a longer term relationship. Like, oh, there's just so many benefits in that. But I can get that though, like people not wanting to, or even like you mentioned, legacy companies and trying to get everybody on the same page to start something new. I mean, that can be a challenge, but I mean, you just look at some of the, look at Kodak. I mean, look at some of these companies that maybe
It's a great example.
didn't go through some of that pain, and you're like, there's just so many obvious examples. And then you even look at maybe some of the newer media companies that kind of leapfrog and eat certain amount of, let's just say, spend from an advertiser based on being a little bit more forward with their content or other things they're doing. So like, I get
So
it, and it's a
it,
quick changing space, so I guess it does make it interesting for those that are also on the rise, right?
well, I think it's interesting because you bring up a couple points. So first of all, say with Kodak, just as an aside,
Yeah.
I was in I think it was CVS or Walgreens or Rite Aid the other day. Somebody was actually getting photos developed. I thought, well, that's interesting. That's something I haven't seen for years. I didn't even know they still did
I
it.
haven't seen that in a bit either.
But now, when I say that, that's true. However, we are working on our sales gateway, which we will be calling Admiral. And we are doing that in partnership with 4 different organizations that
Mm,
are some clients, some not. So while I say that sometimes is a hindrance,
mhm,
there are times that the media companies, when they find the right partner and they understand the plan, can step up and really, really be strong. And I listen, I think some groups are closed, just like in
mhm,
technology. And there's other groups that say, wow, if we work together, I think of like I mentioned Gray, but Hearst
mhm,
is the way, Graham, you know, CMG, et cetera. These groups are all groups that say, hey, if we work better together, we can still compete, but we can also work the same time to build the pie. I'm going to say one other thing, because I know I'm like, now you got me started,
I wanted to.
is
That was the point. Come on.
inherently, right? I'm changing topics here, but here's why people like Netflix are winning and getting viewers.
Yeah.
And there's a content issue, and it applies to advertising as well. So on the content side, people look at Netflix, et cetera, right?
Mhm,
Why do people watch Netflix so much? It's not because they make great content.
mhm.
Listen, do I watch Emily in Paris? Sure, I do. Sure, I think we all do. It's like bazooka bubble gum. I
Yep.
mean, it tastes pretty good. It doesn't have much substance. Is it great acting? Is it really a great show? If this was against MASH or
Yeah.
Frasier or
Not
Friends,
lasting that many years, no.
would it be on network television? I don't think so. But I mean, it's not bad, but it's just easy, right?
Mhm,
And I hear this all the time. I forget, it's somebody maybe from CBS or ABC saying, if we believe if we have great content, we'll get the consumers and therefore we'll get the revenue. That's wrong. That is a wrong statement, because here's the thing. Think of the show Manifest, produced by NBC, was on NBC for 3 years, was getting canceled. The final season, they let it stream on Netflix. It rapidly became the #1 show on Netflix for like 6 or 7 weeks.
Wow.
So that tells you, right? It wasn't about whether it's a good show or not. It was more about, is it a good enough show that was easy for consumers to get to? And it's the same with advertising. People don't go to Google or Facebook or Amazon necessarily because they're getting the best engagement.
Yeah.
No, it's just easy. It makes you feel good when you say, oh, I can target these demographics, etc. But the truth of the matter is what you're ending up getting from that ad is maybe not as good, but it's just, if it's easy.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I think we need to shift as an industry and make it all easy. So then advertisers start saying, okay, where am I really getting the best value and the best results? Not just hitting people, but how am I actually getting people to go to my stores or go to my online store or, buy my service, whatever it is.
Yeah. And distribution's key here. I mean, when I think about even like our shows and when we were making the original decisions of what platforms and what it would look like and how the distribution would be done, and it's like, you don't want to force people from one platform to another. Like, how can you keep not interrupt somebody's user experience? And in your example, if somebody likes being in Netflix all day, well, how can you keep them in Netflix, right? So on the advertising things side of things, it's logical. It just makes sense. Speaking of which, let's talk about, you mentioned it a bit, but I want to go further. So let's talk about Matrix Solutions. So maybe take a moment to tell us a little bit more about the company itself.
So where to start? I won't start at the beginning, but I will mention, what we are as a company. So we are headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and actually the founder of the company came out of KDKA, which was the first television station in the United States. We have an office in Mexico City, where I'm going for the next 2 weeks. So I'm looking forward to that. I love going to Mexico City. And we also do some outsourced development in Bangladesh. And then we have an employee in Bangkok. We do some QA over there for the overnight development. So our primary product today is Monarch. And Monarch you can think of it as somewhat of a competitor to Salesforce, in the sense that it is some of what you get is a CRM system. We sit in the sales organization. The AE is using our product like you would use a Salesforce to prospect, et cetera. However, we're more than that. So we're a tool that's also used by their managers and by the C-suite, because we integrate with multiple systems. At its core, we integrate with all your revenue and traffic systems, so that we will bring in historical data, 5-10 years of data per account. We cleanse and normalize all that data. So as you know, when you have people inputting information, if one puts it in with an apostrophe S and one forgets the apostrophe, that's suddenly 2 accounts. We scrub all that so that we're used in the C-suite. And a majority of our clients will use our product to forecast their advertising revenue going forward. So we're really a business intelligence tool that allows the management and the C-suite to understand where you've been, where you are, and where you're going, as well as enabling the sales team to maximize and really manage their revenue. So like I mentioned, we've been in the broadcast world for a long time. We are currently developing what we call Monarch for Network. So it will be a network-oriented product. We'll have specific things. So, networks, they do upfronts, they have scatter. These are things that you won't really see as much in a local broadcaster, but from a reporting and knowledge standpoint are really important to networks. So this dedicated product will be coming out in the next few months, the first version. And so certainly any network listening who would like to join our network client base, you're welcome to contact us. www.matrixfirst.com. FOR media.com. And then the other product line that we've been working on, as I mentioned, was Admiral. This is a sales gateway, or we call it a media ad sales console. It's really going from buyer demand all the way through order fulfillment, and it's creating an automated converged workflow. So it's interesting. We had a client, and this is a couple years ago, but they had 187 different software vendors in their sales stack. It's ludicrous. Yeah, it's
This legacy and layers. When you say 180 something, I'm thinking, oh, it's hard. Like you accumulate those over time, right? Like decades, possibly in that case. Like you get one solution to solve one problem, you need another to solve another. I mean, media business, no different than any other business. You have a lot of softwares over time. But I'm just cringing because I'm like, go ahead, please.
It's insane, and nothing was integrated. Like in a lot of our clients, they don't have that many integrations because we do it from get-go. Like in your installation, we build out integrations. We do try to do some of that coordination. So the sales gateway is really looking to ingest buyer demand. So agencies are putting out RFPs, whether through MediaOcean, Strata, Hudson, et cetera. We're ingesting that. You're able to render it and build what we term a converged proposal. So in the sales side, you will see the salesperson will see all their inventory that's available, whether it's traditional, impressions-based, linear with dynamic ad insertion. So it's our intention that as we build this out over the next, so it should be released, the first version, let's say, I mean, I hate to give a timeline, engineering's going to panic.
Yeah, they will.
But let's just say you should expect it sometime next year in 2023. But some things will be coming earlier that people could, if they were interested, start getting on, and there's functions that they would have. But then after that, we will be working to develop impression-based dynamic ad insertion. So we're talking to people about incorporating technology that will allow you to be able to do that dynamic ad insertion over live television onto the ATSC3 platform. So for me, this is a big step forward because I view this system and our obligation to our clients is providing this system that not only automates, provides the converged layer, but also helps them transition from the traditional way of selling to the way you would buy digital. And we're doing it all from the sell side, right? So there's the buy side, the agencies, and as you may know, in digital, the technology is separate, right? They come together, but you have the DSP, the SSP, all these different components. Well, for the most part, in the traditional world, everyone has been developing for the agency side, saying, well, you got to give agencies what they want. So the sell side has been resident in getting on board because they're like, we don't want to just throw our inventory on there, have no control, like what happened in digital, and then it's a commodity game. So we said we need to develop a software that empowers our clients, but also helps make a system that gives them efficiencies and makes it easier all around into the ecosystem to make it competitive.
And so by going, I mean, that's a huge step, first of all, and being able to be impression based and to give that same user experience for them that they'd have, on the broadcast side that they already have in digital. I mean, that's big, especially for selling the idea of dynamic ads. So having more than one advertiser buying impressions, like just the capability of that. I mean, that's pretty next level, I feel like. And that on the sell side, that brings them to be able to, I mean, they just have much more bandwidth to do more of what they want to do, and also to serve their clients, right? Those longer standing relationships and otherwise to deliver on their promises. I think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm excited. We do have some stuff developed clearly, and we have a great team that's working on it. So I feel very optimistic.
What is the tell me a little bit about the user experience and what it just is like to work with Matrix Solutions, because people will be watching this, but it's like as we started the interview talking about like what are some of the things that hold people back. Sometimes it's the idea of trying something new and onboarding. So I mean, obviously each product's going to be a little bit different, but let's maybe start with let's just go over maybe Monarch and just like what it looks like if a media company's thinking about, okay, we probably need to start thinking about this? Like, what does it look like user experience wise to maybe start thinking about Monarch?
So, Adam, if I had to say it in one word, it would be unbelievable. Um,
It's great.
so, we as an organization, we're an ad tech company, but because we're dedicated to media and really dedicated to the sales side, we really view ourselves as part of media.
Mm-hmm.
So, for us, it's really important that we understand, because we say we empower you with not only technology, but intelligence and expertise. And so we have, when somebody comes on as a new client, we have a very well developed implementation process.
Mm-hmm.
We look and we map our software. I like to call it tailored customization.
Yeah.
So if you have a certain process, let's say you have 8 stages in your sales process, and somebody else has 4, or you like this method or that method, you like to budget top down, you like to budget bottom down, or top down or bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
We can set that all up for you right away. So we'll have you up and running in, I mean, we say up to 90 days, but usually it's within 60. We also do upfront training to get everybody on board. We have customer service so that people can call in or they can chat, really to encourage you to use the software. And we, of course, with all of our clients, we have embedded software. So we monitor how your team is using the software. And so everybody has different priorities.
Mm-hmm.
So if your priority is, for example, that everybody has to get their pipeline in, we can monitor that for you, and we work with your managers to give them that information and to really help move your objectives forward with a product. So it's a very different than you would see from a bigger generic tool like a Salesforce or a Dynamics. They're giving you the technology. That's it. I mean, they're not even going to do any customization for you. You've got to go out and buy it. So I'll tell you, this is we've had 3 clients that I know of that had left us for Salesforce, and 2 of those clients have come back. And of course, no one's going to tell you what they spent on Salesforce outside of the product itself.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is kind of cobbling it together, and I don't know, it's my guess. One of these groups maybe spent 4 million, another spent 6, and there's a third group that spent, I believe, 10. You know, you are going to spend a lot of money to try to get that customization, and it's hard because that product's designed to sell consumer products. But for us, it's really important that our clients get the value out of our product. And I always say this, per dollar spent on our product, I don't believe there's another software out there that provides the same level of dollar value. I think you can't do better than us.
Yeah, and that type of, and that's why I asked you the question, by the way, was because I feel like a lot of times when the decision is made to implement, then it can sometimes, after contracts are signed, right, like things become a little bit different at times with onboarding or otherwise. So the fact that Matrix Solution is, living up to its word of making things easier on these companies, I mean, makes sense. You mentioned earlier you're going to Mexico, so expansion international. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, tell me more about that.
Hey, are we going to do the rest of this in Spanish? I don't know if you speak Spanish, but
I don't, but I want.
Okay.
But I can nod.
Okay. I have actually been learning Spanish, but I'm still pretty. I mean, my tutor claims, because he does this, it's like for homeschooled kids. That's the kind of tutor I got, and he's based in Mexico. And according to the test, I'm now at intermediate level, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. So, yeah, we are primarily U.S. based. We do have some Canadian clients, and we have been working to expand our international client set. So we're starting in Mexico, looking to expand there. Our product is fully in Spanish. We do have clients like Estrella and Univision in the United States, Lieberman. So we already have Spanish clients in the United States, and even some of their sellers prefer using our Spanish version. But we can adapt any left to right language in less than 90 days. So certainly we hope to continue to move forward. But Latin America is really our first push. It makes sense. It's in our own backyard. And a lot of the ways they sell, maybe ex Peru, because Peru is, believe it or not, extremely advanced in how they do advertising. It has a lot of commonalities with the United States.
That's awesome. I mean, so it's just a whole nother market, huge, I mean, big market for you to tap into, and then just keep expanding and build on some of the processes that you've done over here, over there, to another market that needs it. I mean, just makes sense to me. So
Yeah.
more to come on that one, and excited to hear more about this expansion. But I just have to say, I know you're busy expanding internationally, handling your current clients, doing what you do. New software obviously coming out, new platform. What's next? I mean, what's next for you? What's next for the company?
Well, I mean, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
I think they say in Spanish, es mucho.
I knew that one.
I told you, I don't think I'm that good. But yeah, for us, that's really our focus. As I mentioned, it's not just international, but our expansion to network in the United States. We're also looking at the MVPD market, the cable market. So we really do have plans. We've built such a strong foundation technologically that at this point, I'm very confident in what we can deliver to our existing clients, but also to new markets. So for us, this is a real focus. We're very determined to make a difference. I will mention that not only do we offer technology, but we also have things like the Media Ad Sales Council, where we've gotten together and they're meeting as we speak. I say they put the meeting in conjunction with this, so I wouldn't be on the call. But this is a group of senior folks in the media industry, mainly from the sell side, but also some buy side representation. And our whole point there is to talk about what are critical issues that we need to tackle over the next couple of years, and what are our suggestions for doing that, so that we can start helping drive those conversations, so that we as an industry can move together to solution. It's not saying that we're going to say, here's the standard that you should use, but if we can come up with points of view and ideas and concepts that we as an industry can rally around, it just helps all of us. So these are all the things that we're doing.
It's awesome. Well, Mark, been great having you on the show. If somebody's watching this and they want to learn more about Matrix Solutions and really just to follow the journey, I mean, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we have our website, www.matrix4media.com. But we welcome anyone to call us, reach out to us. I mean, my email is mgorman, Gorman, @matrix4media.com. We'd love to talk. I mean, anyone interested, give us a call, whether you're a prospective client, you're in the media industry, if you're looking for partners, whatever it is, we're always open for those conversations.
Fantastic. And we'll put all, for the audience, we'll put all of that information in the show notes so that you can just click on the website and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time engaging with the Mission Matters platform or listening to an episode, just to let you know, we're all about bringing on mission-based entrepreneurs, executives, and experts, and having them share, you know, why do they do what they do? Like, what gets them motivated to go out there into the marketplace and really into the world to make a difference? If that's the type of content that sounds interesting to you or inspiring or motivating, we welcome you to hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Mark, congrats again on the international expansion, and all of the other, all of the great opportunities you're working on, and really appreciate you coming on the show. So thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Adam.